You're live.
Perfect. How you feeling, Steve?
Well, feeling better than I did a week ago.
Oh, that's good.
Still on the mend.
Deb's got bar time up there. About 5 minutes past.
That's D's.
Oh.
I can't reach it.
All right, I got 6:30. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Roll call. Steve?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Megan?
Yep.
Doug?
Yes.
Ken? Approval of agenda in front of you. You do have the agenda. Are there any additions, subtractions, corrections that need to be made?
Move approval.
Moved by Doug.
Second.
Approval, second by Megan. Discussion? Hearing none. Steve?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Citizens forum. At this time, we will take any citizen input other than things that are currently on the agenda. Do you have anything for us? No? Perfect. Moving on, item number 5, public hearing, discussion action on resolution 2022-10, approving the city's proposed amendment number 1 to the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
Yes.
Motion made by Doug,
Second.
second by Megan. Discussion. Hearing none. Steve?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Public hearing is now open for discussion and action on resolution 2022-10, approving the city's proposed amendment number 1 to fiscal year 21-22 budget. Is there any public input on item 5A?
Move to close the hearing.
Moved by Doug to close the hearing,
Second.
second by Megan. Discussion? Hearing none. Steve?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Public hearing is now closed. At this time, council, if you have any, is there an approval of item 5A? For amendment number 1 to the fiscal 21-22 budget.
Move approval of the resolution so we can discuss it.
Moved by Steve,
A second.
second by Doug. Discussion.
The amendment on line 15 shows that we are receiving $1 million in revenue, and most of that, I believe, is from the state revolving fund loan.
Yes.
Correct, Deb?
Yes, she said yeah.
And the transfers in of $118,000 comes from transferring money from which accounts?
Local option is the main one because of the backhoe.
Okay, and then a little bit from the EMS
Right.
equipment for that device,
Right.
or was that just paid for out of local option sales tax?
The Lucas device was paid out of the EMS trust.
Okay, so that was paid out of the EMS trust. Okay. I have no other questions.
Any other questions from council? Hearing none, we'll go to roll call. Steve,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Doug.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 6, discussion on grants. I wanted to bring this up because I think Lauren has a entity that she would like us to be part of that will help write grants for bigger amounts. Obviously, we do have several community members that have written and gotten grants for us as well. But we're looking for bigger grants such as the Main Street Iowa grant, which is a whole other story. Do you have any input on that?
Other than the legwork that it takes, and they'd send in an engineer and they would scope out, Main Street, what could we do? Then, long-term it would be, they would draw up plans, and I don't have a lot of information on it, but to get the ball rolling, I think it's a good idea to get that resolution in here to get the MIPA going. Plus they do a ton of other stuff along with the ash trees that I'm a little concerned about. The only reason that came up is because I have a dead ash tree in my yard that I didn't know. And the city of Sigourney is, currently battling that as well. That the city has to help cover what's in the terrace. I'm not exactly sure how all that works, but I'm sure we'll have to cross that bridge when we get here, and there might be some grants out there for us too. So
This is because of the ash borer on the ash trees.
So it's here.
It's here.
I believe that the ordinance says that any tree in the right of way is the city's responsibility to remove, and trees on private property are the citizens' responsibility.
Mhm.
So it's Sigourney doing a cost sharing or a grant program for the ones on private property, or is it just the ones in the right of way?
I'm not 100% sure, Steve. I can get more info. That was just a topic of discussion that came up this weekend, and I thought, oh boy, that might hit us as well.
Yeah, if the council wants to contribute toward removal of ash trees on private property, then it should be done via a program and not have the city do the removal, but have the private property owner do it and then submit a request for partial reimbursement or something like that, because we wouldn't want the liability of actually going into private property.
I think too, as we look forward to the future and start thinking about some bigger ticketed items, maybe it's something we look into hiring a grant writer. A lot of times what it is how they get paid is via a portion of the grant amount. And I think having one of those on staff, not necessarily here at City Hall, but it might be to our benefit too, just with when we start talking about a new development, when we start talking about updating our city parks and things like that, it might be beneficial for us to look at grant writers and see what they have to offer as well. That way we're not digging into our cash reserves.
I've dabbled in
Andy, go ahead.
just a little bit of that Main Street Iowa grant. It's like 26 pages just to start. And I talked to a few people in different counties that have actually received the Main Street Iowa, like Oskaloosa, Sigourney received some of that. Huge benefit to the town. It makes it look wonderful, and but there's no way you or I or anybody would even want to touch it, because there's just so many questions that are intense.
So we can look into that. Steve, were you gonna say something?
Yes, the issue of the Mid-Iowa Planning Alliance, we have to do have a resolution in order to join.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, at our last meeting, we had a agenda item where we, by motion, approved payment. And I
Yes,
don't
we
know
did.
why we couldn't go ahead and submit the payment and say that the resolution is coming, after our next meeting.
We can look into that.
I printed out a template, Steve, that they provide on their website. I can bring it the next meeting. We can have it on the agenda.
Yeah, I was just saying that, since the council's already approved joining and paying the amount, probably don't, I don't believe we would have to wait, in order to send them the check, to see, then they know that the resolution's following. And that may allow us to just, start talking to them.
Great. Yeah.
Perfect.
I can work with Deb on that.
Does anybody else have any discussion or questions on grants for the city? I think too, another good resource would be Brett from over in Collins. I mean, I talked to him a little bit, and I think he, in the last, I don't know, however many years, but he was able to get Collins like over $2 million in just grant money. So
That's great.
perfect.
Yep.
All right, we will now move on to item 7, discussion on police force. I think, Doug, this is something that you wanted to discuss.
We've talked about this off and on for many, many years, and I guess if we're serious about doing it, we need to start exploring what needs to happen and how, and if we would have a neighboring city interested. So I think we just need to decide if we're going to pursue, and if so, how do we play the cards to get it started?
For sure. I'd really like to see what Cambridge would think of this too. I know right now they're contracted through Huxley, but I'd like to know if they're happy with that, because if they're not, then we could possibly bring something in-house. I think the big expense too with this isn't necessarily the salary of having our own police force, it's like the setup costs. So if I remember correctly, not only do you have to buy the vehicle, the cage, all of the lighting package and all that, but you would also, I would think, have to do telecommunications somehow through that. If we're looking at the radios that they have now, I'm trying to think here. The ones at the fire department, which aren't the exact same ones that the Story County Sheriff's Office uses, I think you're talking anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000 just for one. And then you have the tower fees on top of that, which are obviously going through the budget, annual fees. So again, if we go back to the grants, there may be something there that we can utilize for emergency communications or things like that. So, yeah, I think it could also be a good idea to sit down and maybe have a joint session with Collins, with their city council, and see what they think. We won't be able to do it this year, meaning we won't be able to have our own police force this year because we've
but it'll take a year to probably plan and discuss.
And we've already signed that contract with Story County.
Mhm.
So I think it's a good idea to sit down and start planning what we would need, and maybe create a task force for this. And maybe it's something that that Medic can be a part of as well.
Mhm.
I would say too, if we're gonna have somebody on staff as a police officer, that they also have to be EMTB certified or paramedic certified. Kind of going back to that earlier conversation of Story County coming here and housing the rig here at Maxwell, that could kind of go hand in hand, I would think. And so we have to have a discussion with Story Medical, if that's something even plausible. If it is, great, then maybe we can have additional staff to help them out. Any other discussion on that?
Before we pull any trigger on this, we need to define what our goals are and what our measures for success are going to be. In addition to what you've said, and that is costs.
Yep.
The, having a police officer, a peace officer that is not the county sheriff, what do we expect them to do? How much time do we expect them to be in town? How soon do we expect them on? I mean, there's all kinds of measures, and if our goals are that they be a paramedic, that they also be in order to be a policeman, they need to be a peace officer, which means that they had gone to the state classes and graduated. So
The academy, yeah.
Mhm.
it's a lot of things that we have to know before we make a decision.
And I think too, we probably should do a cost analysis at some point pertaining to how many police officers do we need? Because obviously if you put one police officer there, that's gonna be like a 9 to 5 job. And then you're left without that during the evenings.
Right.
So, yeah, a lot to think about that. Any other discussion?
Is the public safety committee going to work on this?
Is that Lauren and Ken? I believe.
Yep.
If it wasn't, it is now. Well, we'll talk to Ken when he gets back, and maybe we have a little bit more of an in-depth discussion at our next meeting about it.
Just doing the legwork and that kind of discussion, they should, and public safety committee should be having those meetings and then bringing stuff back to the council commission, rather than have the entire council trying to work on it.
For sure. For sure. Anything else for item 7?
Do we have a gentleman in the room that I could possibly reach out to? We could talk about some things.
Possibly.
What's your name?
Joel
Joel.
Last name, Joel?
Westendorf, Westendorf.
Okay. You live here in town?
Yeah.
Would,
Out on Westport.
would certainly know.
There's a reason why I attended tonight.
Yeah, I figured. Great.
Do you have any input on that?
I've got all sorts of input on
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I mean, I've kind of got some cost analysis stuff already. I know what it costs to go through the academy and pretty much your startup costs and all that. I've kind of got a rough idea. So
Are you retired now?
not now.
Not now.
No, November.
November? Interesting.
Do you know, do we have to have, does the city have to have a cage, holding place?
No,
No.
you don't have to have a holding cell or anything like that. You'd have an agreement with Story County to transport all prisoners up there.
Okay.
But the police officer would have to have a dedicated office space,
Okay.
interview area to be able to do what they need to do.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, yeah, there's definitely some costs involved.
And I think if you go that route, I think next door, not
In the back.
not the library, but the fire station, it's already kind of our public safety area in the first place, and I think there's plenty of room there that
Yeah.
we could utilize, so. Cool.
You might have trouble
Like
with the fire
Joel,
department.
Joel should be tapped by more than Tim to make the job a little bit easier and trying to figure out what the need cost wise. The council still needs to figure out what their goals are and how they're going to measure success.
For sure, for sure. Deb, oh, go ahead.
When you mentioned about the task force, you know, I fully support doing like a task force where you have some city council, but then also have some citizens,
Mhm.
not only myself, but, you know, open it up to some other citizens that might be interested in some input.
For sure.
Do you know anybody that has any interest in input?
I heard there's a couple other police officers that live in town,
Great.
so I haven't made contact with them, but I've heard there's a couple more.
That would be
Um,
wonderful.
And then, you know, I've also got some friends that do consulting on stuff like this, so, you know, I can throw their name to you and
Yeah,
let them.
we should get a meeting put together, you know, after council meets and Ken and I meet and we kind of discuss our goals as a city council and then bring on the task force and
Yep.
have help because we're gonna need it.
Right.
And we've been discussing this for at least 3 years.
Yeah.
since I've been on,
Yeah.
so.
Well, if you're gonna include other communities, you know, get some people from their communities as well to sit on the.
Cool.
Perfect. Deb, did you have anything?
No.
Any other discussion, item 7?
Joel, I'll get your phone number before you leave.
Hearing none, there's one item left.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Lauren to adjourn.
Second.
Second
Good
by
night of
Doug.
living.
Discussion,
I'll let Megan do it.
hearing none. Steve?
Yep.
Lauren?
Yes.
Megan?
Yep.
Doug?
Yes.
Meeting adjourned at 6:51.
Beat 7 o'clock.
Thanks, Steve. Have a good day.
Thank you, Steve. Feel better?
Get healthy.